Welcome back, folks, to the advanced series. Now, keep in mind when I'm recording this, the first one hasn't even came out, but make sure you're commenting down below what you want to see on this advanced series. Again, this is not for everybody, but this is for the people that are trying to do just a little bit better or have the free time to take that extra time in Fishing Planet for comps and tournaments. Now, today we're going to be talking about something super important, and I've seen this happen a lot. In fact, I used to do that. I used to do this until I started doing really, a lot better at comps about 3 years ago, or at tournaments, I mean. Um, and that is practicing efficiently, guys. So, what do I mean by that? We're going to start off with a couple obvious ones. If you didn't know it, you can set up, we're going to use tournaments just as an example because they are the best example of what I'm talking about today. You can go in, and this is obvious, but we got to start with it because some people don't know about this. You can go in, do custom comps, create a practice. You can do it for the length of time. You can do it for, if you go to advanced, you can do as much time as you want. And you just have a friend sign up and you can do the whole practice. Now, it's critical on these to get the right time and weather and that you practice the full thing. So, if you just keep practicing the first half an hour of a tournament and you don't know later on that it gets slow or you have to make a change on hook size or something like that because you didn't practice the whole thing, it doesn't help you out. But that's the obvious stuff. Now we're going to get into the more interesting stuff. This is what I'm talking about here is what I see a lot of people do incorrectly, and they probably don't even realize it. And this part is the part that changed me. The number one thing besides fish bonds and timers that changed me to being a better fisherman, particularly in tournaments and comps. So we're going to use this weather as example. We could say, you know what, we were testing, we were doing a practice and we were testing the X Series bullet spinner because we know it does well at, White Moose Lake. So for the first part of the practice, we use that, right? So the first 2 hours. And we caught a unique. Well, this is what I see a lot of people do wrong. They do that, and then also they're like, okay, well, we know this is good. So now I'm going to go ahead, let's try a shad, right? And then we'll try a medium spoon, and I'll practice the next how long on that. Well, this is what I people see people do really not right. A lot of people. I see even a lot of good fishermen that could be doing way better. Uh, this is a huge mistake, what just happened. Why is it a huge mistake? Well, we're going to talk about it here quick. There's a lot of things wrong with this, and you'll understand why. So first thing is, we're using white moose here in a practice as an example. We'll go down to our sheet, which we talked about in another advanced series. You know that the unique is 75 minutes and there's 5 trophies in 30 minutes. So if you just practiced for two in-game hours, that's a half an hour. If you caught your uni, you're not going to catch another one. So it's going to look like that whatever you're using now is not going to work. Even though it might just not quote unquote work because you already got your unique and your trophies out. So that's the first thing wrong. The other thing wrong is the weather pattern. You fished the first part of it, but now you're going into a different part of the weather pattern. So is it the weather pattern changing how also slowing down how you're fishing? There's too many variables with what I just talked about. For example, well, was it hook size? Like Oh, I tried the 6-0 medium spoon. Well, was it the hook size that made the difference? Was it the lure that made the difference? Was it the different reel? Was it the different pole? Maybe this one starts doing well because it had lighter line on it and a different reel than your original starter one. I see this happen all the time. You can only, when you're practicing, you can only change one variable. Otherwise, you don't know what made it better or worse. So if like for example, if I use this setup now and it doesn't do well, was it because I already caught my uni? Is it because I'm fishing a different time? Is it because I have different reel recovery on it? Was it hook size? It can be too many things when you start to do that. So I'm going to show you what I do for practice, guys. And now I'll show you guys how I practice for a tournament that I care about how I want to do or not, which obviously doesn't happen as much anymore. But honestly, you can use this for everything. Comps, fishing on the lake. I do this a lot. It's not just tournaments. I'm just using tournaments for example. So let's say we're at White Moose. We set up a practice for lake trout. We've got our uni times figured out. And this what I'm about to show you is very indicative of what I've always done in the last probably 3 years. So I have five of the exact same poles, right? There's no difference. This is just a skin on this. It still is Zeus 2 or 810 or 270 with all the same exact stats as the other ones you can see there. So I have five Zeus 810 set up. This is almost always what I do for tournaments. 100%. You guys will see me do this all the time. The only difference between all five poles is the lure now. So you're taking out all the other variables, and we're going to take out more variables even in a second here. But the one thing I want to explain is yes, you do have a different hook size, but it's the lure. You know what I mean? That's the only variable that you have. So let's say we've set up a practice, white moose, lake trout, it's 2 hours. Now I'll show you exactly what I'll do. So I'll start out with the first one. And to get rid of the time frame difference of using one for a while, this is going to be annoying, but this is how I do it. I'll cast once with this one, I'll switch. Then I'll cast with this one, and I'll just switch every time. Every time. And to make sure it's even, yeah, I'll have to do this part. But I get even as crazy enough because this pull was the last one. Let's say this is the roach one was the last one. It was the last one I used. When I start back through my rotation, I'll actually use this one first and then work backwards. I don't know if you got to go that far. I might go a little bit too crazy, but I'm making sure they each have the opportunity. Now, I will do this for an entire practice, 2 hours, and I will not, no matter how bad they do, I will generally never change this. And the reason for this is, and the reason for alternating is the weather and time of day. So one of them might start picking up. Maybe one of the smaller hook sizes picks up down in a slow period, right? Or maybe once your unique is out, one is better at catching trophies. And the reason I do this is when you're done, you can go into your fish keep net, and because you use the same amount of cast during the same amount of time frames, when you get to your fish keep net, you can see a direct comparison of the lures at the time frame that they were, what worked better maybe for trophies. Now, obviously, with like for example the lake trout, you only have one unique, so a lot of that is just going to come down to luck of which lure caught it. But a more telling sign is not the unique generally when you're fishing. It's more about the trophies because you can hit one fish on anything, right? You can get lucky and hit it unique on just about anything. But if you have five trophies available, you're going to get more of a sign off of that. So that's a way to take away the variables. And another thing people aren't going to hear, you could do all this you want that I just talked about, and it'll help you. But you have to do multiple practices. If you have a bad luck run, like let's say this is what I would be doing at White Moose, and I do this all the time for tournaments. In fact, these are the lures that I use most for White Moose, and there's another medium spoon that I use, a green one, 1.5 4 I when I'm doing that, I will run this same setup on 3 full practices. And the reason for that is just sheer luck. Uh, Maybe one practice, you just have terrible luck with one of them. Well, and you rule it out. And if you would have done another, I see this a lot actually. And then all of a sudden, the next 2 practices on fire, it gives you a better telling sign. The number one thing in Fishing Planet to me um, is proof. And doing something for 5 minutes is not testing something. You got to do it multiple times. For example, when I make a guide for you guys, I have caught that fish at a minimum of 3 different times and have spent probably 3 hours on it, just that one fish in that spot over the years. So keep that in mind when you're doing this. If you're not going to put in the time and you're not going to have and you got to not have a biasism. You got to be willing to learn, because if you just think you're going to come here and this bullet spinner is going to be the best thing every time, if you're a person that's set in your ways, it's not going to be good. One of the things that's helped me succeed most, besides practicing like this, is I'm not set on one particular lure. Like, I'll see this all the time. Will you go to, for example, I'll go to Florida. Somebody will be using X Series Bass Jig, which honestly works. Let's use this as an example. But maybe on a different weather pattern, blue is really good, like or yellow. But they don't want to change because they're so set on this. It's like they have an investment in the company that makes X Series bass jigs. You got to be willing to change. If something's actually better, use it. You don't you don't own a stake in the Patriot Walker company. Like, change it. Get rid of it if it's not working. If you've tested it. Anyway, guys, little bit of a weird end to the video there. But you can see what I'm talking about. Hopefully this helps you out, guys, and we'll see you next time, folks. Have a good one.